Hello everyone, and welcome back to Money Pulsar. Airports are strange places, aren't they? They're not quite cities, not exactly markets, and they definitely don't feel like normal businesses. Yet, inside an airport, everything seems to cost more. Food is more expensive, retail prices are inflated, and it all feels a bit disconnected from reality. A simple bottle of water can cost several times what you'd pay just outside. A basic meal feels completely overpriced, and you'll notice almost every store follows this same pattern. This isn't an accident. Airport pricing is the result of a very carefully designed system, one that's built around your time, their control, and your very limited choices. Today, we're going to break down exactly how that system works. Ever wondered how airports actually make their money? If you think it's all about planes taking off and landing, you're in for a surprise. The truth is, most airports aren't really in the transportation business. They're in the people business. Let's break it down. Of course, airports charge airlines for things like landing fees, parking the aircraft at the gate, and using the terminal facilities. But here's the kicker. For many major airports, these fees only cover a fraction of their operating costs. Sometimes, they don't even turn a profit from the aviation side of things at all. So, where does the real money come from? It comes from you. The moment you clear security, you transform from a simple traveler into something much more valuable to the airport. A captive customer. Think about it. You've got hours to kill before your flight. You can't just leave. You're in a closed environment, a carefully designed space meant to get you to open your wallet. This is where the airport's business model truly shines. All those high-end shops selling designer bags and watches. That's not a coincidence. The restaurants and fancy bars charging premium prices for a burger and a beer. That's part of the plan. And of course, the star of the show. Duty-free perfume, liquor, chocolates, it's all there, strategically placed to tempt you. Even the advertising you see on every wall and digital screen is a massive revenue stream. In fact, at many of the world's busiest airports, this non-aeronautical revenue, everything from that pre-flight coffee to the last-minute souvenir, actually brings in more money than all the airline-related charges combined. It's a brilliant strategy. By creating an environment where you're encouraged to shop, eat, and relax, airports have turned waiting time into a goldmine. So, the next time you're wandering through a terminal, take a closer look. You're not just in a building that gets you from point A to point B. You're in a massive, meticulously planned shopping mall that just happens to have runways attached to it. The entire layout, from the long walks past endless storefronts to the placement of food courts, is designed to maximize your spending. They've perfected the art of turning your layover into their payday. Have you ever walked into an airport, grabbed a bottle of water and a sandwich, and then nearly fainted when you saw the price? Why does a simple coffee that costs you a few bucks in the city suddenly cost a fortune once you repassed security? Well, there's a fascinating economic reason behind it, and it's not just random greed. Outside in the real world, prices are kept in check by a simple but powerful force: comparison. If a cafe overcharges for a latte, you can just walk across the street to another one. Competition keeps everyone honest. But the moment you step into an airport, especially after you've gone through security, that entire system just breaks down. Once you're in the departure lounge, you're a captive audience. The security checkpoints act like a one-way gate. You can't just pop outside to find a cheaper option. Your ability to move freely and compare prices has been completely taken away. You are, quite literally, stuck. Then there's the time pressure. You've got a flight to catch. Your gate is boarding in 45 minutes. You don't have the luxury of time to wander around looking for the best deal. You need that coffee now, or that snack for the flight. Your patience for bargain hunting is zero. The constant announcements of boarding times and final calls just add to this sense of urgency. And finally, your flight schedule removes any power you might have to negotiate or wait. You can't say, "Oh, that's too expensive. I'll come back tomorrow." You have to fly today. At this specific time, you can't delay your purchase, and you can't easily choose an alternative if there isn't one nearby. So what does this all create? It's a rare and perfect storm for sellers. They have a situation where demand is guaranteed. People will always be hungry, thirsty, or bored. Choice is severely restricted. There might only be one or two places to buy from, and the urgency is constant. Every passenger is on a deadline. In this unique environment, our normal price sensitivity just collapses. We become willing to pay prices we would never even consider outside the airport walls. The vendors know this. They know we can't leave, we can't wait, and we have very few, if any, other choices. So, the prices go up. It's not personal. It's just the raw economics of a captive market. It's not just about the cost of the food itself. It's about the staggering cost of simply being there. First off, let's talk about rent. Airport retailers pay some of the highest commercial rents you can imagine. We're talking prime real estate prices, but with a captive audience. This isn't your typical Main Street lease. Landlords, in this case, the airport authorities, know that travelers have limited options, so they charge a premium for that access. That high rent is the first layer of cost that gets passed directly onto you, the consumer. But it gets even more interesting. In many airports, stores don't just pay a flat rent. They have to agree to a revenue-sharing model. This means that for every single dollar you spend, a percentage of that sale goes directly back to the airport. This fee, often called a concession fee, can be substantial. So, when you buy that $15 burger, a good chunk of that isn't going to the restaurant for the ingredients or their staff. It's going straight to the airport authority. That percentage is built right into the price tag of everything you buy. You don't see it on your receipt, but trust me, you are paying for it. Then there are the operational hurdles. Airport retailers have to follow incredibly strict rules. They have to be open for long, often unusual hours to accommodate early morning and late night flights. This means higher staffing costs because they need more people working around the clock. And paying employees for those shifts costs more. Security is another huge factor. Every single item, from ketchup packets to napkins, has to go through rigorous security screening to even get into the terminal. This logistical nightmare adds time, complexity, and, you guessed it, more cost. Plus, storage space inside a secure airport area is extremely limited and expensive. Retailers can't just store massive amounts of inventory on-site. They have to manage just-in-time deliveries, which is a far more costly way to operate than a regular restaurant or shop. So, the next time you're at the airport and feeling that sticker shock, remember what you're really paying for. It's not just a meal or a drink. You're paying for the high rent, the revenue share with the airport, the complex security logistics, the extended operating hours, and the limited storage. It's a whole system of hidden costs that all add up to that expensive price tag. Why is there so little competition at the airport? From the outside, it looks like a bustling marketplace with dozens of shops and restaurants all vying for your business. But pull back the curtain, and you'll find a very different story. The reality is that airport retail is a world of concentrated ownership. A handful of massive corporations operate almost everything you see. They control a huge portfolio of brands, from the fancy souvenir shops to the quick and easy food stalls. They might manage outlets across multiple terminals, sometimes even entire airports. So, when you're deciding between that burger joint and the sandwich shop next door, you might be choosing between two different storefronts owned by the very same parent company. It's a clever illusion of choice. This lack of real competition means prices don't have to fight each other to win you over. Instead, they often move in lockstep, usually upwards. This is a big reason why, despite years of passenger complaints, very little ever seems to change. The system is designed to keep prices high because there's no genuine competitive pressure to bring them down. The operators know you have limited options, and they price their goods accordingly. Now, let's talk about the most valuable and most overlooked product being sold at the airport: your time. Airports are masters at monetizing the minutes and hours you spend waiting. Every single delay, every long layover, every time you follow the advice to arrive 3 hours early, all of it extends what the industry calls dwell time. And there is a direct, proven correlation between dwell time and passenger spending. Think about your own airport habits. You grab a coffee not just because you're tired, but because it's a comforting ritual while you wait. You sit down for a meal, not always because you're starving, but because it's a way to kill an hour before your flight boards. You browse through shops out of sheer boredom, looking for a distraction. Airports and their retail partners understand this psychology perfectly. They know that the longer they can keep you waiting in the departure lounge, the higher the probability that you'll open your wallet. You might remember a time when airports tried to keep a lid on prices. They had this idea of price caps, forcing stores inside the terminal to match the prices you'd find on the high street. It sounds like a great deal for travelers, right? So why did so many airports ditch this model? Well, it boils down to a very simple, and perhaps a little cynical, business reality. Airports realize that while passengers might complain about the high prices, they still open their wallets. What people say they'll do and what they actually do can be two very different things. Passengers would complain loudly about the prices. They'd tweet about it, leave bad reviews, and tell their friends how outrageous it was. But then, they'd walk right up to the counter and buy the expensive sandwich anyway. Their behavior told a different story than their words. As long as people were buying, the stores were profitable, and the airport was collecting its hefty rent. The system worked, not because people were happy, but because they were a captive audience. The airport ecosystem thrives on this convenience trap. As long as flights are being boarded, bags are being checked, and passengers are getting to their gates, the complaints are just background noise. The cash registers keep ringing. And that's the metric that truly matters. Now, that's just one piece of the puzzle. The other major reason prices just seem to climb and climb is what's happening behind the scenes. Running an airport is incredibly expensive, and those costs are rising much faster than in a typical city environment. Think about it. Security is a massive, non-negotiable expense. Every single item and person that enters the secure area has to be screened, stored, and transported under strict regulations. This isn't like stocking a regular supermarket. The logistics are a nightmare. Deliveries have to be made at odd hours, often overnight, to avoid disrupting passenger flow. Every delivery truck, every employee, every box has to go through rigorous security checks. Staff who work in the airport stores need special clearance and badges, which adds to hiring costs and complexity. Then there's the infrastructure itself. Airports are 24/7 operations that see immense foot traffic. The wear and tear on floors, restrooms, and seating areas is constant. Maintenance and upgrades are a never-ending cycle of expenses. And here's the key part. Airports don't just absorb these astronomical costs. They pass them on. They charge retailers incredibly high rent and often take a percentage of their sales. The retailers, facing these massive overheads, have no choice but to pass those costs on to you, the passenger. This isn't really about a sandwich or a coffee. It's about how modern systems are designed to extract value from you in moments where your choices disappear. Understanding this is key to seeing how pricing power truly works in our economy. If this helps you understand money systems a bit more clearly, subscribe to Money Pulsar. Here, we don't just react to prices. We explain why they exist. Thanks for watching.